So today's video, all I'm going to do is summarize the things we already know from this chapter. So we're not really learning anything new. We're just sort of saying, okay, at this point, where are we? What should we already understand? Okay, the first major idea in this chapter is that a derivative, that's the new vocabulary word for this chapter, a derivative, this is very important, is the slope of a curve at a single point. Now we said on the very first day of school that our goal this year was to figure out how to find these things, so now we know how to find them. We can use two different methods. We can find a derivative at a specific x value, or we can find a general derivative formula which we can use to find the value at any x that we choose. If we have a specific number to work with, we would use this limit, the limit as x approaches a, of f of x minus f of a all over x minus a to do that computation. If we want a general formula, we would do the limit as h approaches 0 of f of x plus h minus f of x all over h. We also learned that the graph of a function is connected to the graph of the derivative. This word connected is really important because since they're connected, we can actually figure out what these graphs should look like based on one alone. The maximums and the minimums of the original function become the x-intercepts of the derivative. The positive slopes of the original become the areas of the derivative or the y values of the derivative that are above the x-axis. And the negative slopes of the original become the portions of the graph that are below the x-axis on the derivative. So if we look at those things in context in this specific problem, this maximum and this minimum become these two x-intercepts. So these correspond to each other. This section of the graph, which has a positive slope, becomes this section of the derivative, which is above the x-axis. And this section of the graph, which has a positive slope, becomes this section of the derivative, which again is above the x-axis. Finally, this middle section of the graph here, which is a negative slope, becomes this section of the graph of the derivative, which is below the x-axis. Those are the big ideas in the chapter so far. Tomorrow, we're going to practice some of those big ideas in class. So I'll see you tomorrow.